what we do day to day, project to project, the people that we meet day in and day out, that's the journey because once we get there, it's all over. We have nothing else to do but just say, I'm here. This is the life that I dreamed of having, that I'm journeying right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rodney Veal's Inspired By, a podcast where I get to talk to some of the interesting folks, not only in the Miami Valley and Cincinnati and Southwest Ohio, but the country and the world a little bit. And this I'm really excited because I don't know a lot about this guest, but her credentials and her joy and her spirit clearly invade everyone because everyone I've spoken to about her has said you need to have her on the podcast. And so, yeah, there's a lot of love for you, Tiffany Countryman. And Tiffany Countryman is the uh, engagement and learning coordinator for the Human Race Theater Company, but she is so much more than the black and white of a resume. And I am super excited about that. And I just got to witness some of her creativity and action a week ago. And I just really want to have this conversation. So without further ado, Tiffany Countryman.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me, Rodney, and thank you to all of those who have good things to say about me. I'm so honored to be on this podcast talking with you today.
Oh, it sounds good. And that's always a good feeling, right? That if people are like saying your work and your reputation is gold and it's solid,
Yeah.
that's always a good thing. And so, and I was like so intrigued by, and the thing is, like I said, I was telling, at the beginning that there was a production, and we'll get to that in the conversation.
Okay.
But I am just so curious, you've been in this position at the Human Race for 2 years, 5 months. I love that. I love how it's like, you know, it still feels like a blink of an eye. But you are making such an impact and you're making such inroads within the organization. But I am curious, how did you get into this pathway? Because there's so many other skills that you
Yes.
possess. What started this journey?
About 2 or 3, well, actually 3.5 years ago, Kathy, who's our executive director, and Emily, who's our artistic director, reached out to me via the board president at that time for me to be a member of the board. They've heard about me in the community. I've written and produced four of my own original works down at
Mhm.
the convention center, the Dayton Convention Center. So they heard about my little underground artistry that I had going on and wanted me to come and be a part of the board. So I was a part of the board for about a year, but this position was created, and Emily reached out to me and asked if I would apply for it. I applied, I interviewed, I went through the entire interview process, and I was selected. And that's how I became the engagement and learning coordinator.
It seems like this was the perfect fit. And so it w you talked about being a little underground in a theater and doing that. Was theater your prime, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, some people say to themselves, "I'm gonna be this thing. I'm gonna be in
No.
the arts." So how did you get involved in theater? I mean, was that your if that wasn't
Well,
the main thing, because I get it. I come from a,
right.
arts background and ended up being a dancer. So what does that
Oh,
tell you?
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, for me, my degree's in communications. And with that degree, I went into HR. So I was actually working in human resources at a local medical facility here.
Really?
When I wrote and produced my first play. So my first play was titled I Wish I Had a Daddy. And that came about because I was going to therapy, trying to figure out, childhood trauma, big T's, little T's, all those good things. And my therapist at the time suggested that I would write letters to my dad about why I was hurt, how I was disappointed, what happened here, what happened there, and then burn them. But as I began to write, come to find out, it kind of was like a story. It was like a play. So I said, well, I'm going to put this together. I'm going to produce a play. I had some artistic connections because I grew up in the church, and the church world is where we know a lot of musicians, a lot of different artistic endeavors. So I started there in ministry and used my storytelling as another ministerial tool, and that kind of evolved into community theater that now has me in professional theater. So that's what
I
happened.
Oh my god! But that's what is so fascinating because it's like this whole notion of like you're trying to work through trauma. You're trying to work through the big.
Mhm.
I love you said big T little T. We all
Yes.
and the thing is, and we all have it, and
Mhm.
that's an important thing. And like sometimes we think it's not a tool.
Yeah.
Like and it's kind of a weird way to think about it, but it really is. It's a tool that
Mhm.
you could use to be creative to kind
Absolutely.
of and I love how you said it's story like ministry is storytelling.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I feel very strongly about that. It was like one of our uh one of our gyms and the gym city is Bing Davis, Willis Bing Davis.
Mhm.
He originally was destined, he was supposed to be a preacher, a
Wow, I
minister.
did not know that. I
He
did
was
not know
trying
that.
and so he was gonna follow in his uncle's footsteps, but then like he sees his art as a ministry. And so, I
Mhm.
mean, so you kind of challenge yourself to kind of be this
Yes.
playwright. Like it's like, did you take playwriting classes? Did you do any?
No.
You just
The
kind of just pen to paper.
Yes, the most experience I had was, of course, writing essays in school, and I've always been able to tell a story because my senior year of high school, I had to write a lot of essays to get scholarships. So I was real creative then because I wanted my story, my life story to stick out so that I was awarded the scholarships. So along with that, and along with writing essays and different researches in college, it was just a natural tool that I had that I really didn't know the power behind it until it was time for me to tell my story.
Oh my god! Well, that's good. That gives hope for the rest of like this is the podcast is called Inspired by. So it's like I'm hoping it gives people an inspiration to say, you know what, you can
Yeah,
do this. There's
yes,
no
it can.
And so, in this kind of reaching out, you must have made an impact because I'm telling you, Emily Wells and Cappy Kilborn are no joke when
Mhm.
it comes to, you know, wanting to
Yeah,
do this thing
yeah,
with the
yeah.
human race theater. And I'm a big fan of their work, and I'm also a big fan of the human race. Is like to be asked to be on the board means that you are doing something. So, were you once you started writing plays? Was it
Mhm,
then like you did the first one? And
mhm.
and obviously there was a response to it because you do
Yes,
one and then it's
yeah.
either people connect to it or they go, girl, like maybe
Yeah.
might want to think of
It
something
was
else.
a real connection, Rodney, because the basis of the storyline was that my dad was addicted to drugs. And this was
Okay.
in that 80s, 90s era, when cocaine really began to take over our
Hmm.
communities. So I
Hmm.
was able to tell a story from a child's perspective. I was able to talk about my dad being gone for weeks, months, sometimes years at a time. And just
Hmm.
that storyline coupled with all of the specific nuances to my personal story touched a lot of people because there were a lot of people in the audience that had either been addicted to drugs or had family members that were addicted to drugs. So that's what really pulled them in with that first show.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
So you got them pulled in. So what was your second play? What was that about? I mean, big T, little T trauma, but then it's like, well, what else what other kind of stories can I tell?
So the next thing I did was a monologue series. So I am a huge fan of the vagina monologues. So what I did, because after premiering I Wish I Had a Daddy, I heard a lot of testimonies and stories about their father issues. So I did a monologue series called The Daddy Diaries that had 10 different monologues of child father relationships, whether good, bad, happy, sad, male, female. And so I was able to tell 10 different versions of a child and father's relationship. That was my second show that I did. The third show was a musical called August 28th, and it was a reenactment of the March on Washington. I was able to partner with some other local artists here to put that on. And then my fourth show, which actually was the one that won me an award from California, was Rona the Aftermath. And I was the only one that was doing theater in the middle of the pandemic. Broadway was even shut down, but I still was able to put on a show in 2021 and 2022. It came back for an encore in 2022. And Rona the Aftermath basically talks about two married couples that were stuck in quarantine and all of the things that bubbled up, all the effects, all the serious conversations. And one couple ends in a divorce and another couple ends triumph. So those are the four shows that I've written and produced personally. And of course, I've worked on other projects, but those are my babies.
Those are your babies. I mean, what I mean, I mean, the thing is, okay, why did you think you were gonna go into HR with that kind of creativity? I'm just out of
I
curious.
hadn't tapped into it yet. I was just, going the straight and narrow. You go to
No, I
college, you
know.
go get a job, and I had a child. So, it was if it wasn't for therapy, I wouldn't have started writing. I wouldn't have started writing.
Really? Oh,
Yes,
wow.
yes.
Well, 'cause I mean, we all come at it at a different. I mean, I'm writing now, and I have been writing, and so I
Mm,
used to think I was a horrible writer. I mean,
really?
yeah, that you just assume everyone else is more brilliant than you, and you think, okay, that's not my
Yeah,
lane, and
yeah.
then you start to realize that you do have a voice, and so like
Mhm.
it's like in the thing is through therapy and writing, you just found this is your thing.
Absolutely.
Is it? It almost feels intuitive. I mean, you just have this intuitive nature about the human condition because I kind of and this kind of segues
Mhm.
into what I saw a week ago. And
Yes.
let me tell you, I was okay. I'm not gonna lie. I'm always honest. I'm always that almost to a fault about. I was really tired because we had been filming everything because NATO was here in town.
Right,
But then I
right.
got the invitation from Joni Doherty at the
Mhm.
Charles F. Kettering Foundation to see vignettes of
Mhm.
and it was from the Belonging Project.
Yes,
And
sir.
then I went in. I was like, okay, it's a Saturday. It's 2 o'clock. I could be napping. But I sat there mesmerized and
Wow.
I sat there and I went, this has so much potential. And
Mhm.
I love I love it kind of seems like that this is this notion of you pulling and abstracting stories from others and
Yes.
yourself to kind of as a dramatic device. And it was, and I know you worked with Sierra Leone and you worked with
Mhm.
Emily. I mean,
Mhm.
and a wonderful group of actors, by the way. And
Absolutely.
I absolutely dedicated, and it was really diversity of bodies and
Mhm.
ideas and places that these actors were.
Mhm.
I mean, what was that process like? Getting like now you are in this.
Yeah, I'm in the thick of it, Rodney. I'm in the thick of it. I love my job simply because of the stories that I'm able to hear, whether it's stories through scripts that we have to read or stories that we hear from our community members. So that whole process, I've been privileged to be a part of the project from the conception. It's a project that the Human Race has in partnership with the Kettering Foundation. I've worked with Joni, Emily, and Sierra Leone. It started off with us going and interviewing over 100 community members in
Yeah.
different group settings. We went to corporations, we went to schools, we went to shelters, we had some held here at the theater. We had one held down at the foundation. And basically, Emily and Sierra came up with these prompt questions to just prompt the conversation. And before you know it, we're 2 hours in, and everyone is sharing childhood stories. They're sharing stories that they forgotten, stories that just came back up because of what others were sharing. And what happened is I was able to be I guess, the liaison or the facilitator for some of the sessions, and that's how I got so heavily involved myself. So once we finished our interviews with our community members, Sierra then went back and began to construct the play. So what you heard on Saturday was like an actual session that would happen when we would meet with our community members. Some of the stories verbatim are exactly the stories that we heard from some of our community members. How I
Oh,
got a part of the reading itself was unfortunately one of the cast members lost a family member on
oh,
that Thursday, the Thursday before.
so
So I jumped right in there for that reading. We had rehearsal on Thursday evening, and then we had rehearsal Saturday morning, and then we did the reading Saturday afternoon. We have another one coming up June 17th here at the theater, so you can come and hear the progression of the work. But the actual project itself has been very enlightening. It's been very informing. As a Daytonian myself, I was born and raised here in Dayton, born at Miami Valley Hospital, attended and graduated from Dayton Public Schools, attended Sinclair College, attended Wright State, lived in the West Side, North Side, East Side. So to be able to hear from other community
yeah.
members stories that I've never heard before, I couldn't even fathom, was absolutely exhilarating. So it has been a wonderful project.
Oh my god. And well, the thing is, I really am. I got this look on my face.
Yeah.
Uh, on top of a natural storyteller, you're a natural actress. Okay, come on now. Come on, Tiffany. You can't have all the talent. You
I
can't.
know. Well, you know what, Ronnie? I can't sing, and that's the only one thing I want to do. I want to just blow. I would just
I wish
tear
I
up
could
a
sing
church,
too.
a community, or something. But I'm
I'm
tone
with you.
deaf.
Yeah, I'm totally. I can't do it. I can't do it either.
No,
Yeah, I'm with
no.
you on that one. So in this
This,
process, this journey, they just kind of tapped you in. I can see
oh
why
yeah.
Emily and Cappy said, "Oh, this
Oh
you are this thing," and so like this and these stories,
yeah.
and for the folks, I mean, if you see this posted or you see anything that's connected with the human race with this project, the Belonging Project, go. I mean, I really
Mhm,
I can't. I mean, I can't stress it enough because I when I sat there because there's a one of my favorite plays is the Laramie Project,
mm,
which is that same sort of kind of it's like an investigation.
mhm,
It's like you're getting all these different voices, and even though it was centered and themed around a really horrific event, it was like hearing other people's voices. There's
mhm.
something rich about we're all in this kind of space in the Miami Valley. I love it. You said I've been on the north side, east side, west side. You've been to all the education institutions that we have other than
Yes.
UD. So when you consider your master's degree and PhD, UD tap
Yeah,
on
UD would be best for
yeah.
sure.
They need to knock on your door, absolutely without a doubt. Is it like in these stories? What surprised you about
Um,
the stories for these folks in the community?
I think what surprised me the most, because I've never been able to be a part of a project like this. So what surprised me the most is the similarities in in the diversity. The similarities in the diversity. What I mean by that is we interviewed so many different people on social economical levels, different races, different ethnicities, different representations, whether they're part of the LGBTQ plus community, whether they're conservative, Republicans, Democrats. We interviewed a diverse of people, but the similarities were so heavy. Everyone has these type of insecurities, these wonderings of who am I? Where do I really belong? Yes, this is what I represent and this is what I stand for. But even in those groups, I don't really feel like I belong so much. And that was the most intriguing thing to me is that we all walk around with this question of, am I showing up being who I'm exactly supposed to be, or am I just trying to fit into the moment? And
Mm.
that was the heaviest thing that I took away from the project is that we all have that question.
I'm Bonnie Miles, Membership Coordinator of CET. Thank you for listening to Rodney Veal's Inspired By. This podcast is a production of CET and ThinkTV, two local PBS stations. As PBS stations, the work we do online, on air, and in the community is supported by listeners like you. If you're enjoying the show and would like to support our work, please consider becoming a member at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org. Plus, when you sign up to donate at least $5 a month, you'll get access to special members-only streaming videos on the PBS app through Passport. Learn more at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org.
If you're enjoying this conversation, The Art Show, also hosted by Rodney Veal, is available to stream anytime from anywhere on YouTube or the PBS app.
That is the number one question that drives any sort of it can many ways that's the ultimate roadblock to creativity.
Mm,
I mean, if you don't sense that you belong and your voice doesn't belong, and I always believe, your artistry and creativity is your voice,
mhm.
you might not pursue it. You might not take the first step. I mean, so I mean, that has to be a real mind blowing. It's only been a week. Let's
Yeah.
be very clear. I mean, are you still unpacking them? Because that's the whole thing. Like, I mean,
Oh
the creative
yeah.
process is like it's not. It's. I think there's a belief that the creative process is a one and done. Like, if there's a performance, it's not a
Oh
one and
yeah.
done. It has lingering effects,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's from an audience perspective, but from a creator's perspective, a collaborator's perspective,
Mhm.
is this starting to kick in? Like, oh,
Oh yeah, it's resonating deeply within my soul because there's so many things that we tackle in that show, Rodney. There's so
oh no,
many
I know you.
so many taboo topics, so many things that it's like, whoa. But with that, it's allowing a lot of conversation and understanding to happen. And then a little bit of fear. I'm not gonna lie, there's a little bit of fear there of, are we in the place right now to talk about these things without any type of negative or violent feedback? So those things do churn through me as I, process that project. But I'm excited more than anything.
Is it is because it is what I gathered from the talk back, because we talked about, the audience had a chance to get into the feedback,
Hmm.
was that to your point, when you talked about fear, I
Hmm.
felt that there's a sense of unease
Oh
at the
yes.
fact of the topics that were being brought up. And so
Hmm.
as as a creator and in this process, how do you kind of grapple with the fact that this may not be it's fraught, it's gonna create that, uh, you could tell. I mean, it was like I don't know how to articulate the words of like that.
Yeah.
There was a palpable sense that there's some folks who are like, "Ooh,
Mhm.
you're going too
Mhm.
far," and like, but isn't that what theater's supposed to do?
Exactly. And we're the theater to do it. I stand 10 toes down on the content in the script, not only because I was a part of the project, but because that's what we represent here at the Human Race Theater Company, especially in collaboration with the Kettering Foundation under the banner of democracy and the arts. Like, we are the ones that have to bring this to light. There's so many elephants in the room. There's so many people walking on eggshells. It has to be the arts, primarily the theatrical arts, to begin these long overdue conversations so that we can work through them, so that we can come to some sort of understanding. Not so much flipping the other side, but just coming to peace to be like, okay, this is how you choose to belong. This is how I choose to belong. Let's belong in peace. And I think that we could get there with a lot of work and with a lot of, prayer, but definitely a lot of work.
Which is definitely a lot of work on that. So my question is the concept to expand it beyond 40 minutes?
Oh, absolutely. The concept is for it to be a full theatrical production with a presentation, intermission, maybe touring. Yeah, it is projected
Wow.
to become a full script. Yes, sir.
And that's my hope, and that was my hope with it. With that, I just felt like, yes, the conversations were uncomfortable. Yes, we got to do a little bit, that folks.
Yeah.
But then I will also, that's not everybody's reaction, and that's the great
Mhm.
thing about theater. Take it or leave it.
Mhm.
Everybody's got a different response, and I think
Yeah.
that's what makes that sense of belonging as an audience member is valid in this conversation about belonging. That you
Absolutely.
belong in the audience to kind of hear some stories that you may not have touched base on or have known, and the universality of it. And that's what was the
Absolutely.
thing, is there's a universality that I
Yes.
felt was like, oh, this is about the American melting pot.
Yeah.
This is about this. It's the reason why it's called the melting pot. You,
Well,
you know, you, you
absolutely.
you got different ingredients. We all bring something extra to the sauce, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And so
Hey, but if there wasn't for seasoning, it wouldn't have any taste. So
there,
I'm
oh,
here
ooh,
for
yeah.
it.
So let me, so like, what are your projects like, that beyond just this project, but what are the kind of things that you kind of hope to accomplish at the human race? You got the energy and the
Definitely bringing
spirit, like,
Tony home. We are focused on bringing a Tony to the theater.
really.
Yeah, that's the long-term goal
Ooh.
for sure. So
Oh.
that's my focus. We want to be a Tony holding theater company for sure, but also to continue to engage and continue to bring positive change to the community as a whole. Besides the shows, that we put on stage, we're very committed to community engagement itself, showing up at festivals, being there at different dinners and different fundraisers, being sponsors, donating tickets, making sure that we're showing up and being visible to let everyone know that we're here. We're here to serve this community that we love so much, that has allowed us to be here for 40 years. So as we go into our 40th season, community will always be the focus.
I love ambition.
Yes.
Tony Award. Why not? Well, that's
Why
the thing.
not?
And that's the whole thing with our community. I was talking to someone at an event, and there are so many award-winning folks from this
Mhm.
area, from
Absolutely.
this area. I mean, it's kind of a little it's a little odd. I mean,
Yeah.
I just found out at one that there's a I mean, we've got a Tony Award winner, we've got an Oscar winner, we've got an
Mhm.
Emmy Award winner, we have a Grammy winner, and I found out one of the students at Stivers is a Grammy Award winning producer who lives in London.
Wow.
Who lives in London? I mean, I'm like,
Wow.
oh, so that I mean, so you kind of. I think that if people heard this and go, "Oh, that's kind of ambitious," but I don't think a lot of people realize the Tonys give out regional Tony Awards for excellence.
Absolutely.
And I'm like,
Absolutely.
folks, this is not a far off pipe dream.
It's very
And
possible.
so, I mean, like, what would you like? I'm okay. I know what the human race wants to do.
Uh-huh.
This is putting it out there in the universe. You know how you put stuff out there. So, what do you personally want to do?
Oh, I
I mean, I
definitely personally want to win a Tony. I'm actually going to change my name to Tiffany Tony Award winning Countryman. I'm gonna go down to the Supreme Court and put Tony Award. Everybody must address me by Tony Award winning Tiffany. So that is a personal, goal as well. But outside of art, right now as a mother, I'm focused on getting my daughter across the finish line of the age 18, graduating high school, making that next step. That's one of my primary focuses. Another focus myself is to continue my education, to learn as much as I can, whether that's here on the job, out in the community, or in a formal educational setting. Write more shows, participate in more art, produce more art, collaborate with more artists. Just live the life. Just live the
I,
life, Rodney.
oh, I'm living, live the
Live
life.
the life. Live the
Well,
life.
and that's the thing is, like, we, I know you've encountered folks in this whole notion that there's no way to live the life in the arts. I don't,
Mm,
which I don't buy. I personally don't buy
yeah,
it. I know you don't buy that. I'm like,
absolutely
you're
not.
evident that you can manifest a lot of things. And so
Yes.
this question, like, what would you say to somebody like who never who may have had that kind of thought in the back of their mind or in their heart
Mhm,
to kind of try to even just be a writer or
mhm.
an actor or singer or dancer or painter? What would you say to them? Because you kind of took a leap of faith. I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean, I wouldn't have written a play from my therapy sessions. I mean, I
Yeah.
probably should, but there's rich material. But we all have it, folks. Well, what would you say to them? I mean, what about that leap of faith?
I would say not to restrict their creative edge. A lot of times we get a lot of ideas, but we like scare ourselves or talk ourselves out of pursuing them. And the easiest thing is just to start at the first step. Sometimes you get overwhelmed with the overall picture because when you think about writing a play, you think about a play production on stage. But first, you have to start with an outline. You have to start with characters, a character description, a plot, a summary. Start at the very basics and work your way there. Give yourself patience, give yourself grace, but absolutely do something that you know that you are called to do, that you absolutely love doing. Don't force yourself to do something. For a long time, I thought that I wanted to be a painter, like an actual painter on a
Oh,
canvas.
right. Okay.
And every time I would try, I would buy paints, they would dry out. I wouldn't wash the brushes properly. I didn't, study the way I wanted to because I didn't really have a passion for that. So make sure that you're focused on your passion and that you give yourself patience and grace and just start at the first step. Don't think about the bigger picture, start at the route to get there.
I love that. That's such great, profound advice because I think a lot of people do stop themselves with the big picture. It is kind of
Mhm.
daunting. It is a very scary thing.
Mhm.
And but you are proof of we're talking this, and this isn't overnight, folks. I mean, I think
No.
this is yeah. It's like we're talking. You've been at this for a while,
Yes, my first
and
play was 2018. I Wish I Had a Daddy was 2018. Then I produced a show every year after that until 2022 when I started working here.
wow, you just leaped in. So you were still working. Well, you obviously were still working at the time. You know,
Yes, I
yeah, no,
was
that
in HR. That's how I was able to pay for the play, because I knew nothing about sponsorships, nothing. So I paid for my first play completely out of pocket. I had to pay musicians. I paid for everything myself. Um, so yes, I was still working up until the
oh my
pandemic.
god.
I quit my job at the height of the pandemic, like around October 2020. Then I went freelance for about a year, year and a half, and then I came over to the human
Oh my God. Oh, so okay. Okay.
race.
So, which because I talked to a lot of people about right now. I think we're kind of processing those COVID years.
Hmm.
You know, that was a catalyst to
Yes, it
either
was.
get off the pot,
Yep.
get up and make the choices. Do you think that that
Mhm.
was? Did you see that as the sort of the catalyst to say, it's time?
It was a pivotal moment for me. Pivotal moment. I really started to take off online because everyone was at home watching social media, scrolling through social media, watching Netflix, watching YouTube. And so I just started making videos and my videos started going viral. At first, my videos were about, I called it full time parenting because, all the kids were at home on digital Chromebooks and stuff doing schoolwork. So I would make
Oh, I
little
love the air
spoof
quotes.
videos,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because
Uh,
no work was
mm,
done.
yeah, yeah.
So I would make little spoof videos about that, and I saw that the my audience had a liking to my style of storytelling because I was being silly. I wasn't being serious. So I started with that, and then I started making political videos during the election. That raised my audience a lot, and so I just really leaned into that digital space during that time, which really helped me. Like if it wasn't for us shutting down, I would still be going on the day to day, just treating my playwriting and my art as a hustle and not making it my primary focus.
Oh, I love how you
Yeah.
said, but not treating it as a hustle because I think that's really critical. That is an
Mhm.
absolute moment for anyone that's out there kind of considering this life. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what, and I consider the arts the life. I mean, it could be
Mhm.
any art form. It doesn't matter. It's like that we had not to treat it as the hustle. It's,
Right.
and that gets tiring. I mean, because
Absolutely.
and instead of just saying, you know what, if I focused all my energy on it not being a hustle, this could be the thing.
Mhm.
And obviously for in your behalf, people were paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, folks, no one, I don't think people fully understand. When you get invited to be on a board of a nonprofit, it's because you're about it versus
Wow.
just a title.
I'm so
Or
grateful because
I, I'm not,
I had no idea that this would be my path right now, Rodney. This is not what I when I when you graduate high school and you're saying 10, 20 years, this is not it. But I love it. I'm glad I'm here. I'm not complaining.
no,
But it's just like I never would have fathomed that my journey would be what it has been, especially in the last 5 years. I never would have thought. Never
like
would have
it's just,
thought.
I felt like this is like such an acceleration in this fact that it's like, you are, like I said, that's how, and I know that, and that you are, because weren't you at Leadership Dayton as well?
I am. I'll be graduating next week. I'm a part of the
Oh,
50th
you're,
class of Leadership Dayton. We have finished our year,
oh
our cohort,
yeah.
and our graduation is next Wednesday, and we're so excited. We're so
Uh,
excited.
that's such a great program. I think that that's like what I
Absolutely.
mean. I mean, talk about an immersion into like your community, the community in a way that
Mhm.
what. I mean, this is something I've always been curious because I was talking to some other folks like a couple weeks ago about Leadership Dayton, and they always said, "I've been here, I've lived here all my life, and
Mhm.
there are things I didn't know." I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm kind of curious. I'm curious. What did you learn about Dayton that you didn't know about from Leadership Dayton that
Well,
just
Rodney,
shocked you?
I definitely echo those sentiments because I was in each section like, wow, okay. But I would say the greatest session for me was our Right Pat Day when we went on base and we got to tour base and learn about the many faucets that are, integrated into the base itself. I had no idea that we were working hand in hand with NASA. I had no idea that astronauts came to our base to train. There were a
Really?
lot of absolutely. See, I had no idea. So
Okay.
we saw machines that they go in to train, and a lot of things that I was able to tour and learn about. I would say I took the most from our Right Pat Air Force Day. However, every session, so we meet monthly. For those that are listening, we meet once a month, and we go to a different sector, whether it's healthcare, the arts, the base, things like that. Every session was rich and full of information and history. Like there's so much to be proud of being a Daytonian. But for me, the greatest day, the greatest takeaway was Wright Patterson Day.
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, that's I would never. We're landlocked, folks. We're nowhere near. We think of NASA at Cape Canaveral. We don't
Right,
realize
right.
it. Oh no, 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 no! It's
Yeah.
all happening there at the base, and so I love that. I love the fact that there's you naturally come by this sense of curiosity
Hmm.
about stuff. You seem to be like a person. That's why I'm so glad I got to talk to you because it's like,
Yes.
oh, Tiffany, good trouble that we can get into.
I'll
Let's
try
ex-
everything at least once, Rodney. I'll give it a try. I want to be a fair judge, a fair judge.
fair judge and kind of figure it out. And so, but the
Yeah.
thing is, but that's the whole thing. I mean, in creativity, you can't shut yourself off to any of the
Right.
possibilities. That I think that seems, in any of the conversations I've had with folks about in this podcast, and I have, we're coming up on the end of season 3, going into season 4. So I'm just kind of like, wait, I mean, oh
Congratulations.
well, thank you. And so, but there's like, but I think there's a common thread. Every person
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to on the show is just naturally curious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the
Mm-hmm.
curiosity. So I'm gonna throw a book out at you because I think you are this book. I think this will you will enjoy this book. I can't believe I'm plugging someone else's book, but I just got into it. I saw this book. The title caught me. It was called Moral Ambition.
Okay.
And the subtitle of this book is "Stop Wasting Your Talent and Start Making a Difference."
Mm.
And it's by Rutger Bregman. I
Mm-hmm.
started reading it. I'm like, this book is up your alley. If you're going to have a summer read, I think you need to read Moral Ambition.
I'm gonna
I
check it
think
out.
because I feel like like I'm already like a third of the way through, and I'm thinking everything you have talked about, he's talking about.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm like, okay, this is kind of that whole question of faith and being open to the possibilities. Like the straight and narrow. Like you went from you went
Mm-hmm.
you did the HR, so you got those skill
Mm-hmm.
sets, which is process. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't be in the creative realm without the sense of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is for the kids because this is the last question. What would you say to any child out there who is like wanting to, because the following the straight and narrow, we all know what
Mm-hmm.
that is. I know as an African American, it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's some expectations that
Yes,
you better be able to pay for the roof over your head. Um,
absolutely.
but what would you say to those young people who may be getting that sort of, do the straight and narrow, but you really got something inside of you that's even bigger? What would you say to them?
There's two things I would say. One is a quote from the late Kobe Bryant that I hold near and dear to my heart. And he said that the dream is not the destination, it's the journey. The
Oh,
dream is the journey. What we do day to day, project to project, the people that we meet day in and day out, that's the journey. Because once we get there, it's all over. We have nothing else to do but just say, I'm here. So it reminds me constantly to center myself and be in the present because this is the life that I dreamed of having, that I'm journeying right now. The second thing would be to listen to your mother. Listen to your mother. Listen to your mother. It took me, I think, until I was about 31 to realize that maybe this woman knows what she's talking about a little bit. Because my mom, she's
so true.
very,
So true.
yeah, it's like maybe a little bit. She's very gentle in her approach and how she addresses things, especially since I became an adult. And I'll just be like, oh, mom, whatever. And now when she says something, I'm all ears because there's wisdom there. There's life that has been lived, and no one knows you better than your parents. So to all the kids that are striving, that are trying to do something, understand that your parents have your best interest at heart, even though you may think they're lame or they're dated or they have no idea what they're talking about. Listen, as I get older, I hear stories from my mom. I'm like, you did what? You went where?
Mhm.
So listen to your mother, and stay present in your journey. That's my advice for today, Rodney. That's it. That's all I got.
I'm laughing because that's not a child's. That's not just not for just children. That's for adults as
For
well.
adults,
Like
everybody.
that's a universal. That has generational. It has generational appeal. I love that
Yes.
about you. I love that. And so, folks, I mean, Tiffany, I can see why people say, yeah, that Tiffany Countryman, she's got it going on.